Okay, so I'm recording now. This is the first time practicing this. Okay, so there's an article I'm looking at on the American Counseling Association. Totally left-wing biased. They set the ethical codes, like standards of care for counselors nationally across the U.S. The ethical boards for states will use their guide, their ethics guide, as the basis for judging counselors for how they're practicing, and so you could be sanctioned or lose your license based on if you're violating the ethical codes that they determine. Okay, so they've got this article, March 13, 2025, about this case going to the Supreme Court, U.S. Supreme Court, to hear case on conversion therapy ban. Let's see, the case was filed by a licensed counselor in Colorado on the grounds that the law violates her First Amendment rights to free speech and freely exercise her religion. They're going to be hearing oral arguments in the fall. Let's see, the Court of Appeals rejected the challenge, ruling that Colorado enacted the law based on clear evidence of harm caused by conversion therapy, practices aimed at changing a person's sexual orientation or gender identity. They've been unequivocally discredited by, look at all these organizations that they name, the ACA, the AMA, American Medical Association, American Psychological Association, Academy of Pediatrics, American Psychiatric Association, National Association of Social Workers, issue clear statements warning that conversion therapy is not evidence-based and poses serious health risks. So first of all, what you're seeing there is the ideological capture of all of these organizations, the clear left-wing bias that they have left reality behind, right? They're saying that if you were to treat somebody with some sort of identity issue coming into your office, claiming some other identity or distress about that identity, that's a guy thinking he's a girl, wanting to use opposite pronouns, things like that, or non-binary, or whatever such things, that to ground them in reality, to explore this with the aim towards that they would figure this out in order to, let's say, accept the biological reality of who they are, accept that you're not trapped in the wrong body, you can't change sex, like things like that are just things that are true. So that might be part of the exploration process, right? Like in therapy, we can have aims. If somebody's coming in who's an alcoholic, there is going to be that aim towards you probably working towards their controlling alcohol consumption or abstinence of alcohol consumption, right? So therapy does have aims towards what it treats, even though ultimately it's up to the client to decide where they're going to go with it. Nevertheless, we can be grounded as therapists as far as where the treatment ideally aims for a client to go, where mental health really is. And so these organizations all go that's been discredited and harmful, and they call it conversion. So what they call just being grounded to your body and accepting who you are, that is to be converted. They call affirming a false opposite gender construct, they call that gender affirming care. So it's topsy-turvy. It's 1984 Orwellian speech here. To be what you biologically are is conversion therapy. To convert somebody to believing that they're the opposite gender is just called gender affirmation care. To pump somebody full of hormone puberty blockers, cross-sex hormones, and to do unnecessary mutilating surgeries are what they call evidence-based care, to ground somebody in in their biological reality, they say that it's not evidence-based and poses serious risks. So up is down, black is white, totally the opposite of reality, and they're simply lying because this simply is not true. It simply is not true. They just ignore any data, any research that goes against it. And of course, I have no doubt they simply avoid doing research, honest research that would disprove it. But of course, transgender treatment was being provided that was not gender affirming care for a long, long time. So obviously there was a path that was working, and then they decided, because of the radicals, because of WPATH, these radical advocates, got the power and swayed these liberal organizations. They turned things on their head in regard to treatment. Let's see, what else does this say? Extensive research confirms that conversion therapy is ineffective and harmful, increases risk of anxiety, depression, self-harm, suicide. Overwhelming consensus by all of these organizations opposes it. So now we've got this consensus statement, as if science works by consensus. So everybody is saying the naked emperor is wearing clothes, even though he's naked. But if they've got a consensus, if you don't believe your lying eyes, and you can get a bunch of people to agree with it, then you got this consensus in public health. And this is so, it's just gross. It's so manipulative. It's such lying. I mean, it's bullshit. It's bullshit. And we need to challenge it and call it out. Let's see, this has far-reaching impact. Let's see, in the meantime, you can stay informed and share accurate information. Where should we get this accurate information? The National Center for Lesbian Rights, NCLR, Lambda Legal, and Human Rights Campaign. I wonder where their political biases are. Engage licensing boards and professional associations. Okay, so state licensing boards and accrediting bodies will become critical enforcement mechanisms. Urge your state boards to reaffirm that conversion therapy violates evidence-based care. It's unethical practice and subject to licensure penalties. So, again, here's the threat. Even in spite of the Supreme Court ruling, in spite of the law of the land, tell the state lawmakers and licensure boards to try and criminalize it anyway and go after your licenses for it. Wow. That sound biased? That's not a little left-wing and hostile? Wow. What about we're all colleagues and respecting each other? I think that's supposed to be in there in the ethical codes. That doesn't seem very respectful to me. I'm not feeling very valued over here. Support legal efforts through Lambda Legal and the American Civil Liberties Union. I was reading about the ACLU and its connections to communism, and its, at least in its founders. That's interesting, right? That it's that it was just one of many communist fronts. I wonder if they advertise that on their page. Rather, I think when you look it up on Google, you'll find that ChatGPT or whatever will try to discredit those kind of things. I wonder why they would do that. Woke AI tell you only the censored history that you're supposed to see from the left. Let's see. Filings reinforce scientific consensus. Oh, wow. You have to support the left-wing ACLU. That seems again, there's nothing here about the other side. There's nothing to, it's you got to be on the side of boys can become girls and we don't know what a woman is, and if you say otherwise and treat otherwise, that you're harmful. So keep keep up the taking the children away from their parents and mutilate their bodies to sterilize them, and tell them things that simply aren't true. That's what the American Counseling Association is continuing and telling everyone to believe and support, because they're telling you what political side you're supposed to support here. So that's disgusting. That's unethical. It's horrifying. It's gross. It pisses me off. And I'm not angry enough as I should be, and you're not perhaps angry enough as you should be, whoever is viewing this. This is supposed to be an organization for mental health. Strengthen institutional protections, encourage Medicaid programs, insurers, accrediting bodies to issue formal guidance, denying reimbursement and certification to organizing, engaging in fraudulent therapy practices. Financial pressure can be a critical safeguard if the Supreme Court undermines direct bans. Wow. Wow. Look at this. Look at this. Go after the money. Go after the money. If we can't get them to ban it, if the state won't stop you from giving clients actual, real, good care to ground them in themselves and accepting their bodies in reality, attack their money, say insurance can't reimburse. So look at that, like all these elements of political action from everywhere. And so this is where we conservatives on the right should be taking action. We need rights groups taking action, voicing themselves, speaking up. We need to be speaking up to state lawmakers and licensure boards. We need legal protections for conservatives who are actually on the side of science, truth, common sense, about sex, about reality. There's no such thing as gender. I mean, it's a made-up construct. It's like, if I lift weights, I feel masculine. I guess that's my male gender. It's like, that's nonsense. Like some fleeting feelings of, oh, this felt feminine, this felt masculine. Like they can't even really define it. They don't know what a woman is. They don't know what a man is. And they go, well, it's whatever fleeting thing they want to say. Like out to lunch, out in the clouds. It's so blatantly absurd and insane. And yet here we are. And so, yeah, we should have advocates with insurance companies and accrediting bodies and Medicaid and everywhere, because look, this is where they are taking action. This is where they're taking action. So this is where we should be taking action. Okay. So I'm going to figure out how to upload this kind of thing. I think maybe I'll be reaching out. Here's a link, advocacy@counseling.org. I think that we should let them know what we think about this. So, all right. Well, thank you for hanging out with me today. We'll see how this works, getting this uploaded.